On. Good evening, everybody here. We've got the guys from Tractor Zoom on tonight. I figured we'd have a nice light evening here. Hopefully, we'll have a little fun coming off a long weekend. And told Ryan when we lined this up, if we get bored, we're going to end up talking tractor pulling tonight. But I'll introduce Ryan and Kyle from Tractor Zoom if you want to take it away and give us our update.
Yeah, absolutely. Lauren, thanks for scheduling this. Everybody, thanks for taking time out of your day to talk equipment with us. If it's okay, I'm going to share my screen here. And what I thought made sense, guys, is when Ag Ventures Alliance first invested in Tractor Zoom back in, I want to say it was 2020, we were a little different company than we are today. And so I thought it made sense to walk through a little bit about how we help agriculture, mainly dealers today, but then dive into equipment, market analysis, what's going on in the market. I know guys are getting kicked off in harvest right now. I thought it might make sense to talk a little bit of combines here at the end, and then Ryan was going to dive into some tractor trivia. Maybe you follow Ryan on social media as he talks equipment, and he really loves his interesting iron. So does that sound fair, Lauren?
That sounds good. You should have
Cool.
sharing capability.
All right. So let's see here. Let's get the right screen. So first off, for those of
Ryan,
you,
hit full screen or present mode.
yep, good now.
We've got three screens yet.
You've got three screens.
Getting closer now. Hit present mode.
Hang on.
There, we lost everything.
Yep, hang on. You have one screen.
There we go.
Yep.
All right, there we go. One screen. Okay. What I really thought made sense, we'll kick it off. Quick introduction myself, Kyle McMahon, founder of Tractor Zoom, started in 2017. Before starting Tractor Zoom, I was farmland investments down at Summit Agricultural Group, went to Iowa State, grew up in Southeast Iowa. I did not grow up on a farm, but still farm myself today, figured out a way to get into it. And times like today, a little bit kind of scratch your head of why you do it, but it's still the love that we see and try to make a business out of it. So, Ryan, I'll turn it over to you quick.
And I joined in 2019. I think it was employee number 7. And I've got what I would consider to be the most fun job in the company. I get to play with tractors on the internet all day long, and the company pays me for it. So I try and kind of bring a little, I don't know, a little conversational style and a little bit of history, maybe a little market insight and some nostalgia, and try and help, you know, tell good tractor stories, but also put the spotlight on some of the equipment that you'll see listed on Tractor Zoom, either through our auctioneer partners or one of our dealers. So,
Thanks, Ryan. So today, Tractor Zoom is about 57 full-time employees. We have about 45 of our full-time employees out of our West Des Moines, Iowa office, and then the remainder would be remote. And when we talk about Tractor Zoom, I think most of agriculture, of the folks that know us for tractorzoom.com, which is where we advertise about $25 billion of equipment from auction companies as well as dealerships. Today we advertise about 73% of all of machinery that sells through that platform. And the one thing I think we'd call out is we're the market leader in auction listings, meaning we're the most searchable database for auction listings across North America. And that's really where we cut our chops. So our whole business really started, and when I was in farmland private equity, I wanted to know what farms were selling for. We had a big data team at Summit that helped us really understand the value of farms. When it came time for me to buy my first planter, Kinsey 3600, I had no good access to data and wanted to build a business that really helped people in agriculture make data-driven decisions. So what ultimately tractorzoom.com is for us is twofold. Number one, we get advertised equipment for farmers to easily find machinery. Number two, we track all the sales results of the machines that flow through that platform. And then we take that data and we sell it back to the market through our tractorzoompro.com software. So today, about just a little under 1,400 dealer stores use that software to value every trade-in and every machine and all of their inventory on a daily or hourly basis, if you will. And then we also acquired another company called Anvil, which is dealership sales workflow. You guys have bought equipment. It's actually a pretty complex process inside the dealer store. And what we really found value is integrating the workflow of our machine valuation data inside the workflow of a dealer. So if you've shopped with Van Wall or Agrivision or CMB Operations, not sure where you guys are all located, they would value every time you've done a deal with them, they're using our data and sales workflow in the background, helping them process that transaction to come to a quick conclusion to deliver a good, fast customer experience back to the end farmer. So that acquisition's really made us very dealer centric. And so what we thought we'd provide to this call is give you a little update of where we are as a business, but then dive into machinery values because I think that would be the most interesting. So as you know, dealers just have a lot of equipment. The average dealer store right now across the country has about $6 million of inventory, which is historically about 30% higher than the historical average. And that inventory is really expensive to carry. Dealers pay finance, principal and interest, carrying costs to carry that machinery. And a dealer metric maybe you guys have heard is a dealer likes to turn machinery for their inventory 4 times a year. So they don't turn all of their inventory 4 times a year. And today they're turning it about 1.7 times. So their sales velocity is down significantly, which the whole industry understands. But I wanted to put some metrics to it. So the reason dealers choose our software is because it helps them operate a more efficient sales process. And then they can actually turn that inventory more per year. And that is really a cash flow unlock for these dealers. The average dealer can increase their profit by 3 to 4% per store simply by using our technology. And what's really valuable about this is now dealers have the full insights into what's happening into their dealership, and they know how to have the right types of conversations. If the market's going up or going down, they can manage their business a little bit more proactively than they ever could in the past, and it helps them win market share. I think I saw a question come in. Um, you're referring to each store. Okay, good question. Sam, was that on the value of inventory per store?
Yeah, are you referring to local each store or dealers got bigger and bigger? There's 20
Yeah.
stores or whatever. So
Each store. Yep. So if you have 10 stores, that could be up to $60 million of inventory.
thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Please ask questions. Sometimes I can get a roll here, guys. Just interrupt me. Yeah, there's some dealers that have upwards of $250 million inventory right now, which is a scary spot to be in. Maybe you've seen some of these logos here. We just want to kind of help you understand the dealers that use our data and trust it on a daily process. These would be some of the dealers that we work with that helps us get there. Maybe this is news or new to you guys or not. I thought I'd share. You guys spend so much time buying from dealers and working with dealers. I thought it might make sense a little bit to help understand why the used equipment side of a dealership is so important. So dealers don't make a lot of margin on selling brand new machines. They make a little bit more margin selling used machines, but then the dealer model is really there to help farmers service their machinery, right? That's actually where dealers make a majority of their profit. And the way this kind of model is put together is the OEM, let's just say AGCO or John Deere for this example, they want that dealer to sell as much new equipment as possible because every time they sell a tractor, let's say, they're also selling finance and warranty and long-term recurring parts business and then precision upgrades. Like this is their business model, right? But what the OEM doesn't really have any influence on is the used equipment within these dealerships. And so where we're really finding the big unlock in helping dealers is getting really good at selling used equipment, understanding what farmers to be calling on to get rid of that inventory, and not just running what we call an inbound sales model where you, the farmers, just calling dealers saying, hey, I'd like to buy that tractor, let's negotiate. They're actually going to be providing a better farmer experience, a better buying and shopping experience, because they can be a little bit more proactive on this. So by us helping them be more proactive, run a better sales operation, they can actually go hit the goals that their OEM brand wants them to, John Deere, Case IH, and so forth, right? So maybe this is news, maybe it's not, but this is a very critical aspect of our business that we needed to understand in order to serve dealers a little bit better. So when Ag Ventures Alliance invested, I think that was back in 2020, if my mind serves me correctly. This is the chart on the right is simply showing how much machinery comparable sales that we've captured over time. So when back in 2020, we had $2 billion of machinery transactions, which isn't a whole lot. And today we are tracking about 73% of the market. So when we really deeply understand what stuff is selling for at auction, at dealer lots, that really starts to help us paint the picture to people that use our data on a daily basis to value machinery, to value their entire fleet. And so when we dive into some industry trends, I thought it'd just be helpful to put a little baseline around the velocity and the volume of data that we have now that helps people make better decisions. This is the chart that personally gets me the most excited because I left this nice, cool private equity job that I absolutely loved and adored and got to deal with farmland all the time, to then starting a company and eating ramen, to then watching this chart right here grow, which was always pretty neat. So with that, I don't want to bore you too much. I thought it made sense to dive into some combine market analysis. And a saying that I heard actually today, it was equipment goes where cash flows. One of our employees, Andy Campbell, that maybe some of you have heard speak at events, said that, and it really stuck with me because it's so true. Farm machinery volume and dollars trade as net farm income transacts and becomes volatile, right? And so when farmers can make more money, they want to increase their equipment expenditures. They want to upgrade to find more ROI in your operation. And this is just such a true statement. So before we dive into the combine market and going through what's going on and supply and demand and pricing, does anybody have any questions on Tractor Zoom by chance?
I got one quick for you, Kyle. Personal in my heart right now, you're dealing with auction companies and dealers and that. Well, what about the insurance companies and that? Are they actively engaged? And then a follow-up to that question is going to be, is there a way to factor in the quality and the maintenance on the equipment versus just straight auction price?
Yep, great question. So, insurance does not do business with us. We thought we had a really big case to work with big insurance companies, but frankly, what we found is what we say is the actual value, and equipment on a machinery list for insurance purposes is stated value. So the owner, the farmer, needs to state my machinery is worth this. And it's actually up to the farmer with current policy that the farmer has to say, my machinery is worth this every year, and update that balance sheet of machinery values. And if we were to work with insurance companies, we'd be updating it too frequently, showing depreciation, and they'd actually have premium leakage, which is the exact opposite where insurance companies trying to go. So a little bit of conflict of interest between us and an insurance company. So we actually help farmers with that strategy, so they're setting the right premiums based on current fair market value. To your other question on usage and condition, That's the hardest thing for us to crack, and we have not yet. So we are looking at simply auction values. But what we're also doing is we're pairing it with as much data points as possible to help make that decision. And then we also have all of the images and specifications. Now, we can't tell you if that motor's knocking or when the last service maintenance records were. We're not dealing with that. If we got that information and it was more like a Carfax or more industry standard in the auto industry, it'd be something much easier to tackle.
Thanks.
I think I saw another one come through here.
Yeah, Kyle, there's one in the chat.
Jacob, on the dealer internal sales management process software platform, who is our competitor? So the competitors we would go up against would be a company called Iron HQ and Texada, and they are more legacy on-premises software, older technology stacks. And naturally, what we've been able to do is partner with Salesforce, a really large company, bring our data and really start to compete. I'd say every time we've sold our software to a dealer, we've replaced one of those solutions. So we'd be the newcomer and they'd be, I guess, the incumbent older business. Does that help, Jacob?
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah.
Got like
Okay.
another question here. So if your primary customer is the dealerships to help them understand their inventory and what the value is, how do we as farmers are on this call think about it the opposite direction to be able to, leverage what we have or what we want or what we know to be in a better position going into those negotiations than them that they sit there and look at those numbers all day?
Yep. So fabulous question. We tried selling to farmers and we just didn't get a whole lot of uptake. I can't sit there in a sale to a farmer and talk about it this long necessarily. We do have farmers that subscribe to the data. Sometimes it's just too expensive, and other times they see real value, right? Like the lowest subscription, just for transparency, is $1,200 a year, right? And we have some customers that are paying well over 6 figures for it. But I guess the point to a farmer is anybody can use this. It's just the willingness to actually engage. And the thing that is the hardest about, I think the biggest value proposition difference between a farmer and a dealership is the dealership's doing a deal multiple times a day. And so they're in this using it all the time. They see tremendous value. From a farmer's perspective, they're in the heat of the deal. They only use it for one deal and then they'll forget about it. And so those are just other things that we would need to spend time to make a better seamless process there. But absolutely, farmers can use this, and I can show you what it looks like here. Okay. We'll come back to these questions in a second. So when we talk about the data, this is actually the platform that dealers would use to look at industry trends and pricing. What I thought made sense is we're reviewing combines here. A lot of data on this page, but I'm gonna walk you through a couple of things that we're seeing in the combine market as we're analyzing this on a daily basis. These numbers inside these dashboards change every single day depending on what's sold in the market, whether at auction or at a dealer lot. So inventory. The blue line is the inventory of the total amount of combines in the United States that are being advertised over the last 6 months. I could change this to different time periods, but we'll look at this over the last year. Back to original. So over the last year, we have still been at a very high volume of inventory of combines. And it doesn't matter what the market's been doing, it doesn't seem to be washing them out. Down here in the red is actually the combines sold, whether at auction or dealer lots. So you can see there's good volume in the fourth quarter of last year. And then for the first 6 to 8 months of this year, first 7 months of this year, Sold volume is down dramatically, and there's just not a lot of interest in the combines that are out there. This is a very, very large spread of combines sold to the supply in the market, roughly 6x, which is a huge number, meaning there's an oversupply in the market. When we think about, let me go up to this chart here. Over on the right-hand side, these are the most popular combine models in the market. Probably wouldn't surprise anybody that the S780 is and 770 would be the most popular. But the S780 has over 2.3 times the amount of listings as the 770. Uniquely enough, okay, there's an oversupply of S780s. There's a ton in the market. Dealers have been dropping. There's been more price changes on the 780 than any other machine out there. And over the last year, dealers of their advertised listing prices have dropped them by about 10%. So as you can see, these negative red numbers over on the right-hand side, this is dealers dropping the advertised price of the machine, essentially chasing the market down. So the next really interesting piece that we've seen is that these dealer price changes. This is a very interesting chart that we look at. And this is how aggressive dealers are at trying to move inventory. This means they're changing price. So it's been relatively stagnant throughout the rest of this year. But then as soon as pre-harvest came in July, they doubled the amount of price changes. Effectively, dealers don't want to hold on to these combines for another season. So they dramatically decreased the price in June, July in order to try to wash out of more inventory. So what we've had inside the market is you can see that they've discounted the prices and now they're finding the ability to sell more machines, right? Price down, more willingness to buy, people will upgrade. So right now, their dealers' liquidation strategy on combines is lowering the price to get these units sold. So you can tell dealers are being aggressive on combines. One also really unique thing that if we're to look at this data, the same data pre-COVID, before the inventory elasticity went crazy, this chart would have been totally different. The most number of machines in the market right now only have 500 separator hours. In what we'd say a normal market is there'd be more machines in that 1,000, 1,500, or 2,000 separator hour average because there's that many machines in the market. But what we've seen is, okay, we had a hard time with supply chain between 2021 and 2023. Now all of a sudden, the machines that got delivered in 23 and 24 that have been traded in, there's now a glut of low hour, high quality machines in the market. And so this is what's making dealers the most nervous. So again, we could go through a ton of other data points and so forth, and you can see where all the inventory is. So I'll pause. Does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, I'll just go quick search. Sam, to your question earlier, I'll just go a quick search to 780 and kind of see what the data looks like. Well, fire away if anybody does.
Kyle, is this related to like the multi-unit discount programs with those late model, low hour used machines coming back in on trade?
Yeah, and there's been big incentives trying to sell new combines, but dealers really, the 24s, dealers really didn't want to be selling them. 25s and 26s are actually going to be the biggest issue. There's some dealers that have told their manufacturers they just don't want a single new combine. But yeah, mud deals definitely affect that, Spencer. So Sam, to your kind of question earlier, I own some machinery, small farmer, but I love using this data to get deals done. It's just always blown my mind how buyers wouldn't want to use this or right. I just think data is king, and you can always use this as good leverage. So let's go to match search. Hang on one second here, guys. Let's say you wanted to evaluate a machine that you're looking at purchasing, 50263. This is my zip code. Let's just say you're looking at a 2019 S780 with 1,500 hours, pretty low there, 1,500 hours and 1,200 separator hours. So what the database is effectively doing is it's going to find the most relevant comparable sales to the machine that you are effectively appraising. And so what I just did is I filtered out, there's 800 auction results that we have. I've filtered to the 10 most relevant comparable sales, and that's 188,000 based on my search criteria, where the average dealer is advertising that same type of machine, similar specs at about 230,000, right? So there is a pretty good spread there between auction value and dealer. Inherently, there's always going to be a spread, but naturally that's a pretty big spread that we would see. So you can go through this with any type of equipment to dive in and understand what machinery prices are doing, export these. Like every time I've done a deal, Sam, I come in here, find all the comps, grab them, and take them to whoever I'm buying or selling with, and say, "Here's the market. Let's negotiate around this." I'll pause here. Any other questions around this? Otherwise, I'll pop back to the deck. Again, we could go through this for hours, but happy to look up if anybody's has an exact case study they want to look at.
So this is basically saying it'd be worth the investment in the subscription on a larger purchase of, depending on your farm, right? I mean, because you could save $1,200 potentially on one purchase.
That's how I've always thought of it. Yep. Exactly.
We talked briefly on, the impact of COVID on the supply stuff. Another thing to have happened, the prices back in the 12-13 time period, there seemed to be a pretty large volume of new equipment purchased then. And then as the prices and the commodities dropped in the later teen years and early 20s, it seemed like there wasn't as much new equipment being sold. And that new equipment that was bought then got a lot of guys to retirement. And then you saw a lot of that equipment come on the market in state auctions or retirements. Do you see a cycle like that occurring here again with the commodity price aspect? And then as that correlates to the supply with the COVID?
Yeah, phenomenal question. So as we compare 2013, 2014, where the OEMs, they didn't have a supply chain issue. They turned the spigot on and they manufactured as many machines as they possibly could. And there was plenty of opportunity to buy a brand new machine and have it delivered on time, right? So what that did is it put an oversupply in the used market, particularly in those kind of 13, 14 yeared machines in those later teen years, as you say. When we look at what's happening right now and what's happened the last 3 years, I don't think that we've seen the result of it yet. I think in my opinion, Joe, it's going to be the opposite of what happened in 2013 and 2014. So oversupply then. What I think is going to happen now is there was a supply chain issue from 2021 to 2023. So not as many machines were manufactured. And now we're getting to the point where nobody wants to pay what a new machine's priced at. So even if the OEM is making them, nobody's buying them yet. So what I foresee happening is, let's just say, hypothetically, 2026, we see $5 corn. That could totally change people's buying behaviors. And it would be like the gold rush of trying to buy that late model low hour. And then all of a sudden, there's just not that many for the buyers compared to the amount of inventory. So, the way we look at it is there's tariffs are actually bad for OEMs right now, but they're somewhat good for dealers because it's making that that gap between used price and new price bigger. Used price isn't going anywhere, new price is still going up, right? And so there's a bigger gap there. And so that used machinery, if we saw higher commodity prices, I believe we'd have a couple of months of good opportunities to buy, but then we'd wash out of some of that used. And then those late hour, low model machines that would hang on to the back half of that cycle, those would be the most valuable assets out there. Like it would just be the opposite of what happened in 12 and 13. A different supply and demand issue is what we see. And again, that's why I'm personally extremely bullish on transparent data that updates quickly. You know what's going on in the market.
I guess following up to that, do you see more or less of a trend with these large dealerships going to more model where they're flushing their inventory? Because it appears to myself where they're not building that inventory glut that hurt a lot of dealerships, and they're just fine pulling the plug, sending it to an auction or shipping it overseas harder than they did 10 years ago.
So you know the 10-year story better than I do. I know a little bit more by hearsay. What we saw in the end of 23 is dealers started to get rid of inventory, and auction was the fastest way to do that. We advised several dealers that ended up liquidating between 50 and 150 million dollars of either used inventory in the fourth quarter of 23 through the fourth quarter of 24. They just wanted it gone. They didn't want to see it. They didn't want to hold on to it. They were fearful of what was to come. So auction is definitely that model. I think that they oversupplied the market and there just wasn't enough demand. Prices dropped, and then everybody got scared to send more inventory to auction. Dealers were losing, if they were selling 100 million at inventory, they were probably losing between 20 and 30 million based on what they had in it because they traded in at a high and had to get rid of it at a low. But they were willing to take that haircut versus hang on to it for another 270 to 480 days, which is very expensive. So we still see some dealer auctions out there right now. What tariffs did to the dealer auction market. I'm just talking dealers liquidating at auction. What tariffs did is it actually delayed it in 2025. Tariffs came out, dealer CEOs said, "Oh, bad for OEMs, good for dealer because the price spread of new to used will be bigger." So what dealers did is they said, "I'll just hold on to it for a little bit longer." But now we haven't seen that velocity of inventory come to market. August 24 to August 25, we saw a significant decline in dealer auction sales, but we still believe that wave of auction sales will still happen in the fourth quarter. Inventory is getting pushed from the third quarter to the fourth quarter, if that makes sense.
And to a point, I think you're already starting to see some of those dealer liquidation auctions starting to happen right now. I mean, Coons just had one in Illinois a couple of weeks ago, and I know there's been a handful of others. So I think they are going to start coming up the closer we get to the end of the year.
Speaking of how dealers are feeling, I thought it made sense. We surveyed a bunch of our dealers, and I just showed you the combine market, and naturally, dealer executives, the way they answer this question, what categories of equipment are they most concerned with, are combines. Too many combines, single purpose vehicle, and too much inventory, not enough demand right now. Then sprayers. And one that I would mention is what I actually expect to be a little bit lower than what we're seeing is the four-wheel drive tractors. Ryan, I know you sit by Andy, and Andy raves over this all the time. The amount of inventory of four-wheel drive tractors has skyrocketed over the last 12 to 14 months. I think to the tune of about 2x at a dealer lot. But it's the demand, the actual units moved is very flat. It's stagnant. So I just have a hunch that four-wheel drive tractors will become the next problem child, in my opinion, given today's market. But as you can see here, combines and sprayers are top priority of dealers to get them moved. The next one, which is when do you think that we'll hit the bottom of the market? This was done in June again, so we're about 2 months late here on the results here to you all. But most dealers think the end of 25 and sometime in 26 will be the bottom of the market. And so, given macroeconomics and demand for our commodities, that's how dealers are feeling about this. Again, their inventory is starting to come down. They peaked inventory in the first quarter this year. They are eroding some of their inventory, which is good. But as of 2 months ago, they thought the end of this year and the middle of next is when we'll see the bottom of the machinery market. The one caveat I'd have here is it always depends on what type of machine. Every individual machine and the age of that machine, it can totally change the market when you're looking at it. The final one I have here is if there's one area that a dealer could focus on. Again, this survey was done specifically to dealer executives. And what could they focus on the most 25 and into 2026? It's selling used inventory. That is top priority of a dealer right now. It's not internal efficiency. It's not even selling new equipment, which the OEM pays them a lot for. It's not even their parts and service. So absorption is their parts and service business that carries their dealership. It's not even that. It's just getting rid of inventory. So again, this inventory is not just an issue as we look at it from the data, but when we have the conversations in the survey of the emotional side, that's what dealers are thinking. The last piece before I turn it over to Ryan to do some tractor trivia is, Sam, maybe this is a good spot for you to start as well. Go to tractorzoompro.com and look at our blog. Free content we put out. We'll review what's going on in the combine market, what's going on in the header market, sprayer. We put out content about once a month, I think it is. And it's free content for anybody to read. And we use all of our own data to help build those articles. Again, it's going to be directionally helpful for you and maybe not the right asset class at the right time. But that's a really good, easy, free spot. I think you can sign up for our newsletter there and get that straight into your email as well. So with that, does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, I'm excited to see what Ryan comes up for tractor trivia.
Well,
Do you see
Go ahead, Sam.
farmers we're sitting on multiple tractors and now that's coming to the market? Because it wasn't a couple of years ago and there was no available equipment, and now we have a glut of it. So it was in somebody's hands. It wasn't produced yesterday. I mean, we're looking at 2019 combines, right? And we didn't see all those combines just go to the junkyard and stacked up at the local, iron shop. So what were you seeing on that? Who held these?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Definitely farmers were holding them. And what we saw a lot of is, okay, I have 2 extra tractors. Let's just trade in 2 tractors and get 1 tractor. Now that dealer's at 2 for 1, right? They sold 1, now they got 2. So you have the volume of inventory that just starts to skyrocket because that new machine was so expensive. It took 2 used to get to that one. All right. I'm not hearing any more, Ryan.
Kyle, I've got one one other question. Are you still an advisor to one of the Federal Reserve banks, or are you done with that now?
My term did roll over in March, so I rolled off that advisory council in March.
Okay. All right. Well, then we won't quiz you on what the conversations are on interest rates then.
I know what you know. Even though I got to meet with the Federal Reserve president on a frequent basis, he still wouldn't give me all the dirt that I wanted.
Any other final questions here, or we'll turn it over to Ryan for our tractor trivia? Everybody's quiet tonight, so. Some really good questions, though. I enjoyed them. So
Yeah.
Kyle, do you track independent used equipment dealers as well, aka the machinery jockeys, or are you more focused on OEM dealers?
Yeah, we do track a few of the jockeys, particularly if they advertise with us. It's free listings on Tractor Zoom. So if we can work with them at that capacity, yes, we would track what's happening there. I can't say we know about them all because they can be sprinkled out throughout. The only data we wouldn't track would be peer-to-peer sales, so farmer-to-farmer transactions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
alrighty, Ryan. I guess it's showtime for tractor trivia.
Good grief. You guys keep building me up on this. Boy.
Well, I'm just hoping we get some more followers for you, so you can collect a little royalties on YouTube and stuff like that. So
Royalties. Well, I did come up. We do on the farmer facing or the B2C social side. I put out videos probably 4 or 5 times a week on pretty much all of our channels, and we're kind of maybe thinking about making a few changes to some of the way we deliver content. But one of the things that we've always gotten quite a bit of love for is tractor trivia, because it's always good for beers with the boys or coffee at Casey's in the morning. And I heard this one and I did a little bit of digging in on it, and I thought it was kind of cool. But in 1977, there was a two-wheel drive row crop tractor captured on a whole bunch of cameras, pulling a load that weighed 1.8 million pounds. What was it? What tractor? Any takers?
Say the specs again.
Two-wheel drive row crop tractor back in 1977, pulling a load weighing 1.8 million pounds. And it was captured on a whole bunch of film crew cameras.
should have been thinking ahead, and I should have had a prize ready. I'll find a hat for anybody that guesses next week at the field day. So while you guys are playing the Jeopardy music in your head, I'll do a few little reminders here. Ag Venture Alliance Field Day is September 9th. We've got a pretty good lineup coming in. I see Margaret jumped on here. She'll be one of our panelists. And then the next happy hour call, I've got Pete coming back. We'll start talking about the Ag Launch 365 that's starting right now. So, any
I
guesses?
cheated, Ryan. I know the answer.
Oh, Sam, what are you doing?
I'm not saying it. I'll let others
Okay,
guess
fair
first.
enough.
It
Fair
shows
enough.
up right
Lauren, he
away.
gets a hat.
Since we're in the neighborhood anyway, I gotta take a nod to Oliver and say 2255.
It's a good
Or
guess.
am I off on my years?
No, that'd be right. That'd be the final year of production for the 2255. It wasn't that one though.
Can I
Well, if
guess
no
what
one
it
else
should
guesses,
have
I'll
been?
guess another one, but I'll wait.
Somebody said they wanted to guess what it should have been. And Spencer, that sounds like you.
Yeah, I think it definitely should have been a 4020 pulling like a jumbo jet.
Absolutely. But it wasn't.
Ross, I seen you came unmuted.
I was gonna throw out just top of my head. It's got to be a deer, right? I'm thinking trains have that much, so rail. Is that in the 4440 era?
77 would have been a year before the 4440 came out. But you got the train part right.
All right, give us another clue. What
I'll
color?
just. How about a 60-30?
No, but I think a 60-30 could have done it. Nope, this was the pride of West Allis, Wisconsin, guys.
Oh,
Is the Alice Chalmers 7080, believe it or not. And it was for a TV spot. It was for an ad that they plastered all over, played it in the commercial breaks from Newhart and whatever. But the tractor actually pulled 30 rail cars and a caboose, and that weighed about 900 tons. Um, and they interviewed the driver. His name was Carl Stevens, and he told them, "Well, I was in third gear at the time." And yeah, it sounds awful impressive. Let's also consider a little bit of, I mean, it was maybe a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I mean, low rolling resistance on, steel wheels on a pancake flat, steel track. And I'm sure every car in that, I think it was a Union Pacific train. I'm sure it had the newest and latest and greatest, roller bearings on it. So the rolling resistance wasn't all that much. And I put this video up, oh, I don't know, maybe 3, 4 months ago on some of our socials, and I got a lot of comments, a lot of responses telling me that you could do this with pretty much. I mean, somebody said, "Well, yeah, we could do that. Our co-op would move rail cars with an 806." And so, yeah, there was some smoke and mirrors to it, but it looks awful darn impressive when you see a 30 rail cars plus a caboose on the back end of an Alice 7080, and it's just kind of lugging along and bumping over the railroad ties. Um, Now, I suppose the most, I don't know, butt puckering part would be getting that whole thing stopped. And from what Carl Stevens said in an interview once, that was absolutely the truth. So trying to get 30 rail cars stopped just using the brakes that you had on the tractor, a little sketchy, but it looked cool on TV. And actually, I've got the link right here. I won't play it, but if you guys want to see it, I'm going to drop that in the chat right now. So in the event that you want to take a look, it's a YouTube link to a channel called JNL Videos, and there's some they're pretty hardcore Alice nerds, really cool guys. Hoping to meet them sometime soon here, but they've got that video up in all of its award-winning glory. So
Well, do you have the link for your regular videos too then? So if guys want to watch them?
any of the social medias, you're going to find us as Tractor Zoom, just Tractor Zoom. And if you want on the more the dealer side focus, Tractor Zoom Pro. So, and we're putting out content maybe a little less frequently on the Tractor Zoom Pro side, but that's where you're going to start to see some of the trends and the trends videos and what's happening and what we're seeing in the market and stuff like that. So
Well,
with me, it's
here's
maybe a little lighter touch.
here's one for you to research then. How many of you remember the old Chevy two-tone was it pulling a plow?
It
Right.
was,
That burned up last week.
yep.
Was that at Husker or not Husker, but Half Century Power?
Yeah, half century. They pretty sure the transmission boiled over because it was running pretty hot. But
So
I thought that was a clone, though. I did not think that was the original real deal.
okay. I
I
seen the
can hope
pictures last
anyway.
week. But any questions for Ryan or Kyle? I guess my one question for you, Ryan, would be what's been your favorite tractor trivia? Or just all of them?
All of them is a cop out answer, I suppose. I'm kind of a 60/30 nerd. Um, so if it has something to do with a 60/30, I kind of like that. But really and truly, you know, people ask me every now and again. John Kinzenbaugh asked me last week, says, "What's your favorite tractor brand, Ryan?" And I said, "Man, I don't know if I have one anymore. I mean, I was, my family grows apples back home in West Michigan, and I was, first tractor that I ever drove, I think, was a John Deere 850. Um, we farm with itty bitty, teeny tiny tractors that look like you took a row crop and then washed it on, and or air dried it or dried it in the dryer on, high heat. Um, but you know, I don't know. they all made duds. They all made great ones for the most part. And so, those all have stories. And I think that's kind of the thing that I like about this. I mean, I send out an email every 2 weeks. We're right in the middle of the cycle right now. So there'll be another one that goes out next Thursday with a tractor story. And the tagline is that every tractor has a story to tell. Let's tell yours. And that's kind of that's one of the parts of my job that I really enjoy, is telling those stories and doing some of that legwork and digging in on the history and stuff like that. And, figuring out some of those weird connections because there's plenty of them. So,
Well, I think that's the perfect place to stop the recording, but don't feel in a rush to leave.